So my first question obviously is going to be the beginning. I mean, you have become the go-to jeweler for some of the world's biggest celebrities, athletes, royalty, of the sort. How did you get started with creating jewelry? And how do people get started creating jewelry?
Well, I don't know if there's a special formula to learn how to get started, and I think that um, the opportunity presented itself, and I took full advantage. I was always a very creative person. I enjoyed being creative, and I enjoyed people, and those two things are what kind of led me to this. I can't sit here today and tell you that somehow when I was a kid I was dreaming of being a jeweler. That simply wasn't the case. But and you never know what opportunity is going to arise. But I was at UCLA. I was $28,000 in debt, and I needed to figure out a way to make money and make ends meet. Uh, at the time, I went and I wasn't the type to go work at Baskin Robbins. I always wanted to work for myself, so I had to figure out some way to be able to pay off my debt. So at the time, I had a friend that had taken me downtown to the wholesale district in LA. And at this place, I noticed she was going to go buy some plastic hair clips and silver trinkets by the dozen. And I was like, wait, you buy this by the dozen? I could totally sell this to the girls on campus when I was at UCLA. So I took my last $400 and bought a few dozen silver tchotchke thing, hair clips, things like that. And I made a deal with UCLA to set up a 6-foot table and sell to some of the girls on campus. This gave me an opportunity to, one, talk to women, two, have an opportunity to make some money, and three, have a great time. So at that point, the university had said no. I asked about 12 times until finally they said yes. I set up a 6-foot table, and I was immediately successful. By the time I was a senior in college, I had 6 college campuses going at the same time. I would hire people from other college campuses to work for me on commission basis. And at that time, I was making 6 figures a year as a college senior. So I was doing really well for myself. I wanted to take a step further because I always enjoyed being creative. I always enjoyed creating and coming up with new ideas and concepts. And I would sit at home and I would draw different ideas. And I ended up having some manufacturers make just like really low end jewelry, make it for me. And I was trying, I would get prototypes made and I would try to sell to girls on campus. And I immediately saw it was a big success. I decided against my father's wishes to not go to law school and continue running my fashion jewelry business. But I knew that there was a limit to that. There was a ceiling to how much I could make. And there was very little, if not no scalability to my business. So at that time, I was fortunate enough to, if I was making $15,000 a month, I was blowing $15,000 a month. And where was I blowing it at? I was going to the nightclubs. I was going to the parties. I'd go out. I was around the Hollywood scene. But in doing so, I was able to meet a lot of professional athletes, celebrities, things of that nature. And I noticed all the jewelry they were wearing. So I said, oh, I can do that. I can create that kind of stuff. So eventually I would go home. I would sit down with my pen and paper and I would draw up tons of designs. And I would literally bring them with me, hoping to meet certain people. Like if I knew there was a certain team playing the Lakers and I knew all the guys would go to this particular nightclub, I was like, okay, well, I know that so-and-so might be here. Let me have some designs ready for him. And lo and behold, finally, after asking so many people and getting rejected so many times, finally someone gave me a shot and said, yeah, you know what? Let's go ahead and make this bracelet for me. I had no idea how much it was going to cost me. I had no idea how I was going to do it, but I acted as if I've done it a million times before, and I outsourced it. I was able to make a few dollars, and he started referring me to other clients. And then fast forward to today, we have 6 stores. We do championship rings. We manufacture everything in-house. In fact, we're one of the only true U.S. manufacturers left in the United States.
Wow, Jason, that's remarkable. I know a lot of people have not heard that origin story, and it was just super interesting. I want to break a few things down that you mentioned. First off, I know that you kind of were thrown into this business. It wasn't something that as a child you mentioned that like you knew you wanted to be a jeweler. I do know that you wanted to be an NBA player when you were a child. So it's super cool seeing that full circle moment though, where you're able to now create these legendary championship rings for the Lakers, Warriors, my team, and of course the Bucks. So I want to get a little deeper to the clientele you've been able to bring on. You've worked with some amazing people. I mentioned those NBA teams, Drake. Of course, I know you made a crazy piece for Michael Jackson. I believe it was a door, if I'm not mistaken. So to that 20-something founder today, entrepreneur that's looking to build a strong network, build these relationships, because you're not just doing these one-off jobs too. You're building lifelong friendships and relationships with these people. What advice do you have for building relationships?
Well, I think the biggest piece of advice for building relationships is to never discount any single relationship. And some of the best relationships came about because I was just simply nice. I smiled. I was considerate. And oftentimes I've been around business people that will like just discount, say, oh, he's just the busboy. He's just the waiter. He's just my gardener. He's just the refrigerator repairman. No, bullshit. You don't know where these people will be. You don't know who they know. You don't know who they'll come across. I've gotten some from clients from the barber. I've gotten clients from their personal driver, their security guard. And you know why they were willing to help me and look out for me? Because I gave them the same amount of respect that I gave the celebrity or the superstar. And I think that that's very, very important. Another thing, you have to make sure that every encounter is a memorable one to everyone you're meeting. Doesn't matter how low or how high they are on the totem pole, make sure they remember you. I don't care what it is. You say a funny joke, you are putting a performance on every single time you meet someone new, and you have to remember that. You don't take any performance night off. Every single time you meet someone for the first time, you got to know that I'm putting on a performance. What am I selling? I'm selling myself. Because it doesn't matter what product or service that you're selling. At the end of the day, this person is buying you first. And if your product or service is reliable, is dependable, is of high quality and standard, they will come back. But at the end of the day, what opens the door is you, yourself, and that's it. So every single person that you come across, and I tell this to my salespeople, I said, you're at the grocery store, you're talking to the cashiers, put on a performance. You're going and you're getting your hair cut from your barber. Put on a performance. Make it a memorable interaction every single time, because people will remember you. And when people remember you, they like you. When people like you, they're willing to help you, look out for you, think about you anytime there's a potential opportunity that comes about. And I think that, I have my salespeople in my stores, and they only put their best face forward when a customer's walking in the store. Well, guess what? I built my business with no store. I built my business getting customers every time I went to the grocery store, I went to the car wash, I met somebody new, I was introduced to somebody. I always look for what I can do for somebody else before I think about what they can do for me. And you have to be able, this goes to my next point about building relationships, is establishing reciprocity. Meaning, everyone always goes into relationships saying, like, what is this person going to do for me? How am I going to get this out of the person? How are they going to help me in this way or that way? Instead, the first thing you should be thinking about every single time you meet someone is, what can I do for them? It doesn't have to cost any money. It could be a restaurant recommendation. It could be a smile. It could be make them happy, put them in a good mood. It could be you notice that they have a great pair of shoes on, and you're commenting on their shoes. Everyone loves a compliment. But when you do something for somebody, they are more inclined to help you back. It's just the laws of human nature, right? If I see you and I give you a free pen, you're gonna remember this is the guy that gave me the free pen. But the next time that you see me, you'll be like, you know what? That was the guy that gave me that free pen when I needed to write something down. I'm gonna do something for that person. These two things, in my opinion, are very, very important into like building and maintaining relationships.
Totally. The business world can be very transactional, which is good. Obviously, there's a lot of money to be made, but I feel like a lot of times we're always thinking, what can that person do for me? And I love how you broke that down. Value always needs to be a two-way street. Before you even consider what that person can do for you, really go into the situation first and think, what can I do for that person? I think that just makes for the best relationships, and really can help build sustainable relationships. And the second point that you made that really was amazing, and it's simple. We hear this so often, from when we were children, but I feel like a lot of times people forget about it. Treat others how you want to be treated. So it doesn't matter, what level of success you're able to reach. Obviously, look how successful you are, and you still manage to treat people the right way, no matter who they are. So I think that's such a powerful trait. And if someone of your stature can do it, I think a lot of other 20 somethings today can also do that. So really good advice.
Yeah,
So
I'm not gonna lie. I catch myself sometimes when I'm, everyone gets in their moods, right? Or I'm having a bad
yeah,
day or this and that, and I'll catch myself. I said, did I give all of me to that interaction? And I don't care what interaction that is. And I have to. I'm policing myself each and every day to do this, to remind myself to do that, because sometimes when you get far away from how you got started, you start to forget the traits that allowed you to get to where you are. And it's like going back to basics. And I always have to remind myself to go back to basics, even now. So I think it's an important thing to remember.
totally. And I think that's a great pivot, for my next line of questions. It's about creativity. Jason, you've been in this business for a long time. You've done some amazing pieces, diamond shoes, the lighter ring is actually probably one of my favorites, the championship rings, pieces for amazing people. But it seems that every single piece you release continues to become more and more extravagant, creative, and really stands out. So obviously, yes, probably a large portion of our audience, they're not looking to join your business, but I think that this can be relevant to any business. How are you able to remain creative when you've done something for so long? How do you not get bored, and how do you continue to innovate and really change this game?
Well, I think that it's important to get inspired, right? So, like for me, my most creative moments are when I'm traveling, when I'm on a plane, when I'm going to a new restaurant, going to a new place. When it turns into Groundhog's Day and you're doing the same thing each and every day, and you walk into your office at 9 o'clock and you check out of your office at 6 o'clock, you're not going to be creative. You just I pull my creativity from my experiences, from people around me, from conversation, from just life experiences, walking around. Sometimes I just need to take a walk and walk around and clear my mind, and I think that that's what allows me to be creative. Another thing is never settling, and pushing yourself. Like when we do championship rings, it wasn't enough just to have a cool design. We had to build special features into the ring, because I want people to be excited for what's next. I like putting the pressure on myself to be like, you just can't come out with something ordinary. You have to come out with something extraordinary, because that's what people expect of you. And I think that was important for myself, because kind of like pushing the limit to go bigger and better and better and better. And I think that's what allowed me to be creative, and also never being afraid. I don't care what other people think. When I first did my first few designs, my mother was ashamed of me, because she said, you're promoting drug use, or you're promoting violence, or you're promoting this. And I didn't raise you this way. I didn't care, because it inspired me. It was something that was different. I was bored to death of seeing every jeweler making the same shit, and all of it looks the same, all of it's boring. And I needed to find a way to build an excitement into what I do. And when you're excited and passionate about what you do, it sees itself through to your pieces, and the people will appreciate and understand and feel that passion that you have. And I think that when I design, I don't design for any single person other than myself. And if it inspires me, and some of the pieces I design, they're not even pieces I would ever wear, but I enjoy the process of being creative. And you have to, you want to be creative, you have to embrace it. You have to want it. You have to enjoy it. You have to revel in it. And I think that that's the most important part of maintaining creativity.
I love that. Just like the famous Apple quote, you need to think different. And sometimes, the circumstance or environment you've been in, sometimes it can be difficult to remain creative. So I love that you mentioned that you like to travel, speak with new people, get around, just expose yourself to new cultures and influences. I think that really helps you. And obviously that can help so many other 20 somethings. So I have two more questions for you.
One more thing to touch on that. I would say the biggest thing that gets in the way of creativity is other people, other people's opinions. I think back at myself, and there was a few times when I wasn't feeling as confident about stuff that I was doing. And then, somebody would be like, oh, that's a bad idea, or that'll never work, or this or that. I found out that later on that I was like, you know what, fuck everybody. I'm not going to ask anyone's opinion anymore. And I'm just going to do what I do. And if it fails, it fails. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Because what that does, it puts me in a box. It makes me
Mm-hmm.
conform. I don't want to create with blinders on. And even I have a team of jewelry designers that are underneath me. And I said, the worst thing you can do is look at other jewelers. I don't want you to look at other jewelers and be inspired. I want you to look at nature, architecture, clothing design, furniture design. I don't give a shit what it is. But I never, no matter how much I hate some of my designers' ideas, which sometimes does happen, I never say I hate it. I always want them to get to the finish line, and either we use it or we don't use it. But like, nothing kills creativity faster than listening to other people's opinions.
Comparison is the thief of joy. Another quote there. No, I think that that's really powerful. Yeah, I mean, it's good. You know, you don't want to be boxed in. You don't want your employees to be boxed in. You know, you really want them to create amazing things. So really shouldn't be comparing themselves, or anybody should not be comparing themselves. And I think that it's difficult, you know, with social media and a lot of things that
Yeah,
exist
that's the
now.
worst
It's
thing.
easy.
Social media is the worst.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it can also be used positively as a great tool. You know, I got you on my podcast, so you just got to find the best ways to use social media. So two more questions for you, Jason, then we can wrap it up. This is probably a quick one, or it can be a really challenging one. What is the coolest piece that you've been able to work on?
I've done so much cool, interesting pieces over the course of my career. But I would say, you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, oh, the last piece was the coolest piece, but like I always try, even when we do the championship rings, like you brought up earlier in the podcast, I've always wanted to be an NBA player. Unfortunately, I never had the athletic ability to ever be one or get close to one or even make a high school, college, or a junior college team. But the closest thing I got was doing the championship rings, which doing the first Lakers one was hands down the biggest individual accomplishment for me because of what it meant to me and you know as the little kid trying to be an NBA player. But my last ring I did with the Milwaukee Bucks, which had multiple, you know, had where the top comes off and it turns into a pendant and you know, it had a QR code on the inside. And it's just like, I was so proud of that piece that if you ask me if a single piece of which one you're most proud of, I think that even though we've done the world's most expensive shoes and we've done this and that and diamond fish tanks and diamond statuettes and all this crazy shit, this would be my favorite piece. This last Milwaukee Bucks championship ring.
Of course. Yeah. And I was reading a lot about, you know, the creation of that piece. I understand that, you know, it started with just a phone call with Giannis and, you know, he brought up the QR idea. And obviously that was just the idea though. I mean, you really brought it to life and, you know, made it look awesome. And another thing that I love that you always say is, you know, it's really difficult to create these championship rings because it can't only look good for you. It has to look good for all the players, the owners, you know, the team, the fans as well. So I just
So
think
yeah,
that's
that's an occasion where I can't design just for myself because I'm
exactly.
commissioned
Yeah.
to
Well,
so that one gets tough. But you'd be surprised, you know, we do some of these creative things on the championship rings and not everyone is cool with it. There's some people that are like, you know, they want to go very traditional and they don't want to have all the fluff. And some people the players typically love all the extras.
totally. Yeah, no, I'd say one of my favorites as well. It was a really good piece. So my final question for you now, Jason, if we were to go back, you know, years and years, we're not going to obviously, you know, say your age. We don't want to say that, but, you know, back to like the beginning of college, you know, before you started really doing well with the little college business you had towards the end of college, you know, back when you were in debt, back when you did not realize that this was going to be, you know, your journey and you were really going to find so much success in this field. What is that one piece of advice you would have given yourself? Something that maybe a mentor didn't give you, something that you now know and you would have really loved to know back then?
So I think that what I'm going to tell you both hurt me very much, but also helped me. Um, and I've always been the person that believes the best in people.
Mm-hmm.
But by doing so, I got burned a lot early in my career because I just assumed everyone's an angel and everyone had my best interest at heart. And I look back and when every time I think back in my career, I'm like, oh God, that, you know, that one really hurt. Like, why did I trust that guy? And they screwed me over and they didn't pay me and this person took advantage of me. But you know what? I was really mad at myself for so many years. And then when I hit 40, I'm just barely over 40. When I hit 40, I remember thinking back of all the relationships I got for that very same reason is because I believed the good in people. And at the end of the day, when you look at both sides of the coin, I think the benefit outweighed the negative. And I think that I wish I could have been a little bit pickier on how quickly I trusted people, but at the same time, you know, that allowed me to have a lot of great people in my life. So I don't think I answered your question at all, but I kind of did.
No, I think you did. You know, I think you really did, and I think that that's a great point that you make as well. I mean, something that has helped your career so much. Obviously, you know, it can't always be positive. You know, there were a few negative moments where trusting someone too much, you know, putting too much faith in someone, you know, didn't result for the best. But for the most part, it did work out.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's journey is different. There's no one playbook of doing something. Whether you're trying to go into the same industry as you, or you know, do something completely different, you know, the playbook always changes. But I love just hearing what worked for you, and love that you were able to share all this today, Jason.
Yeah.
So just want to say it was a pleasure. This
Thank
interview
you.
really means a lot. It was a special one, and I know that it was special because it was special to me, and all of our listeners are going to be able to learn so much from this. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Appreciate you having me on.
Of course, Jason. Have a nice week.
All right. Have a good one.
See ya.
Bye-bye.